While a bit too large for everyday carry, Thrunite's TC20 is a great general use flashlight that offers impressive performance in a compact, well-built package. It has recently been improved with some updated output numbers and a couple new features, and still comes in at the same price as before. Meanwhile, the Wowtac A5 is a light that has not seen any updates since release, but still provides some nice performance and comes in at half the price of the TC20. Though I personally think it is no longer competitive, it remains a solid flashlight that is a great budget alternative to the TC20. The TC20 is only 11.9 centimeters long and 4.2 centimeters wide at the head. The TC20 V2 is a tiny bit lighter in weight, being 143 grams to the V1's 148 grams. Both are rated to IPX8 with a 1.5 meter drop. Internally, they feature square-cut, anodized threads, an anodized battery tube, a spring in the tail, and a button contact in the head. The V1 actually offers 2 springs, while the V2 has just 1. Both include the same 5000 mAh protected 26650 cell. The heads of both lights are identical, with a thick stainless steel bezel and a quality piece of anti-reflective coated, hardened mineral crystal glass for the lens. The reflector is nicely textured and perfectly centered inside sits a CREE XHP70.2 emitter. The only real notable differences lie on the body of the light, where Thrunite has updated the knurling on the V2 with a pattern that both looks nicer and offers a bit more grip in the hand. Opposite the stainless steel side switch is the charging port, which on the V2 has been updated from micro USB to USB-C, a very welcome addition. The A5 is smaller than the TC20, being 11.5 by 3.5 centimeters, and weighing 145 grams without the battery. The build is still good, but the overall quality is not quite at the level of the TC20. The light features a micro USB port with a smaller and flimsier cover, the button lacks the metal cover, and the glass lens is not well coated. The biggest issue with the build is the USB port, which is deeply recessed into a small opening, making many common cables unusable as they will not fit. This alone is a reason not to consider the A5 if USB charging is important. It is also worth noting that the smaller button does not stand prominently from the pill, and is much harder to find in the dark than the TC20's larger button. Otherwise though, the build is very comparable, and effectively speaking I would say that this is really just as good. The light is still made of solid aluminum with anodized threads and feels nice in the hand, and most importantly features the same CREE XHP70.2 LED and a quality orange peel reflector. The interface is identical across both versions and is very simple and easy to use. A single press of the button turns the light on to the last used mode, and pressing and holding cycles through low, medium, and high. A quick double tap at any time activates turbo, and another double tap activates strobe. Pressing and holding from off activates firefly. The side switch possesses a small LED that indicates both the current battery level and the charging status. It will run on every mode except for firefly, which is really nice. Both lights will charge with a current of 2 amps. They will only provide low, medium, and firefly when plugged in. Aside from the USB-C charger, the biggest difference between these two lights is the increased output offered by the V2. Despite using the same emitter, the driver has been tweaked slightly to push 4068 lumens out of the V2, which is 268 lumens more than the V1. In my testing, I measured the V2 at 3816 lumens, while the V1 put out 3367 lumens, or about 450 fewer lumens. This is not a huge difference, and is really only noticeable upon direct comparison. The V2 will sustain this for 3.5 minutes before stepping down to 1700 lumens, which will run for another hour and a half. The TC20 has a very good driver that offers great efficiency, well-balanced modes, and excellent regulation, maintaining output levels for a long time and being free of any PWM. The modes are slightly altered from the V1, but remain within the same general area. I particularly like the Firefly, which has been dropped from the V1's already great 0.5 lumens down to just 0.3 lumens in the V2. This is a really nice ultra-low mode that works great in complete darkness. However, Thrunite's specifications state that medium and high offer slightly lower runtimes despite the same output level. Not a huge deal, but something to be aware of. Thermal performance is good, with neither of these lights getting too hot in the hand. While they do heat up, I am never worried about overheating occurring with the TC20. The A5 offers about the same performance, but does not push the same amount of light, providing a turbo that I tested at only 2563 lumens, which is over 1000 lumens less than even the V1. While it is true that we perceive lumen variances logarithmically, This is still enough of a drop in output to be clearly noticeable upon comparison. Practically speaking, this is still extremely bright, of course. Beyond the turbo, the step down in the rest of the modes are pretty much the same as the TC20. Firefly is also only 0.3 lumens, which is very nice. Thermal performance of the A5 is mostly the same, but due to the smaller heatsink, the light does get a bit hotter than the other two. The step down comes a bit quicker, but the difference is minimal. The TC20 has a very well-balanced beam that offers lots of floody light with a decent amount of throw. The hot spot has a soft corona and the spill is even, and the beam is free of artifacts. There is some tint shift visible. The V1 that I have here is equipped with a neutral white emitter, while the V2 I have is cool white. The V2 will eventually be available with neutral white as well, and other than this, they produce an identical beam. I definitely prefer the warmer neutral white option, but both offer fine tints and decent colors. The XHP70.2 has a CRI of around 70, which is just okay. This emitter is not known for its beam tint, and Thrunite has done a good job of smoothing out the beam and improving the tint shift with this orange peel reflector. As a result, this light doesn't offer a ton of throw. I measured the TC20 V1 at 20,143 candela, which should provide about 283 meters of throw. Due to its higher output, the V2 does punch a bit further, with 25,830 candela, or 321 meters of throw. Interestingly enough, the measurements I took showed the V1 performing below Thrunite's ratings, while the V2 exceeded Thrunite's numbers. Again, this light is more balanced for general purpose use, and for that I think this beam is excellent. Given its slightly smaller head, the A5 has a less intense beam with slightly greater flood. I measured it at 12,704 candela, which is still pretty good for a light of this type. Because this uses the same emitter and almost the same reflector as the TC20, the beam is otherwise identical. These lights carry an MSRP of $90, which is a pretty good value considering the build and performance. At the time of filming, however, the V2 is on sale for about $63, which is a great price. I wouldn't be surprised if Thrunite continues to offer more sales in the future. Overall, the TC20 is already a very good light, and Thrunite hasn't done too much to alter it this time around, instead electing to offer minor improvements. The USB-C port is a very welcome addition, and the performance bump is nice as well. Ultimately though, they are essentially the same light, and if you already own the V1, there's not really any reason to upgrade unless you absolutely need that USB-C port. Otherwise, performance and build are nearly identical. If you are buying one for the first time, you should definitely go for the newer model. Either way though, you certainly won't be disappointed. The A5 offers most of the performance of the TC20 at half the price, and if I'm being realistic, it is pretty much just as good in real-world usage. The build is still great, and the performance is impressive, providing a great value overall. However, there is a legitimate reason to opt for the pricier TC20, and more importantly, I feel there are now better value options on the market that have made the A5 more or less obsolete. I would like to cover these in another future video, but lights like the Sofa and SP33 are just better and cheaper, while the TC20 itself is pretty close in price when on sale. Still, the A5 is a good light, and while it might not be my first recommendation, it's certainly not one that will disappoint, and I still happen to use it pretty frequently. So overall, I do think this is a great light. Alright, that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did find it useful, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I would like to clarify that for this video, Thrunite sent me both TC20s so I could compare them in a video for their official YouTube channel, while the A5 I bought myself a couple years ago now to review. While I did make the video for Thrunite, the opinions expressed here are still my own. At the time of recording, Thrunite is pretty much the only company that wants to send me stuff, which is partly why I now review so many of their products. I have reviews for other products coming, but I have to buy them all myself, which is not cheap. If you enjoy these videos and want to see the channel grow, then subscribing, liking the videos, and most importantly sharing them with others will go a long way towards expanding the channel. And as it grows, I'll be able to produce ever more interesting content. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, this one's over.